Welcome to the Money Watch Show. It's Saturday, June 7th, and we are here breaking down some of the most frequently asked questions that you guys have. And if you'd like to come on the air and join us and ask us about these things yourselves, all you need to do is go to our website, jillonmoney.com. And there you can click the Contact Us button, put a question down, we'll get an email, or if you want to join us live, check the box. Mark will do everything else. Speaking of Mark, he is my co-host, Mark Talercio. Hello, Mark.
Hello, Jill. Happy first weekend of June, right?
Indeed. Mark, I wanted to put a topic out there for us to cover because we have had a number of folks who ask us about different ways to finance things. And I'm not talking about a house purchase. I'm talking about short-term financing. So everything from buy now, pay later, AKA an installment plan, a credit card, a debit card. I think that it's becoming more and more of an issue that people are paying a little bit late on some of their bills, and they are finding that the best intentions of putting that money on the credit card or getting that buy now, pay later loan, that it was all like, I didn't think I was going to have a problem paying it off, and then there's a problem. So, Mark, are you a debit card user at all or not?
No. I mean, if I use my debit card once a month, that's about it. And that only ever happens because the barber shop that I go to for myself and for Theo is cash only. So I got to go every once in a while. I got to go get some cash. That's it.
The funniest thing that I have noticed is by mistake, I used my debit card. Literally. Absolutely. So the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of stories about various problems in these buy now, pay later.
No, say it ain't so.
Yes. And I noticed this was in the New York Times recently, I think it was last week. And the headline was, consumers are financing their groceries. What does it say about the economy? You know, what we have learned in this is that about a quarter of consumers use buy now, pay later loans to finance their groceries. It is up. So again, a quarter, 25%. That's up but from about 14% a year ago. That's from LendingTree is that stat. Now, when you check out of many online sites, Amazon, for example, you are always given that choice. Do you want to pay for it all at once or do you want to have 4 installments? That's what buy now, pay later is. It's an installment loan. I was on the air at CBS Mornings talking about this, but of course it got interrupted by the news flow. So Mark, are we going to we'll put the whole segment in where I start with like, hey, President Trump just lost a court case, and then I go into buy now, pay later. Is that what happens? It's all in one segment?
Correctamundo.
So let's air that segment. And then you and I are going to come back and talk about all the different things that happen when you actually not just have a credit card, but also a debit card, like what's good, what's bad, and how we recommend that people deal with these kinds of debts. So let's do this. Let's air this segment. This is from about a week and a half ago, I guess it was now. CBS Mornings anchors are Adriana Diaz and Tony DeCopel. And we start off with President Trump losing this court case, which, now seems like old news, but it was interesting in the time. So let's run this segment because I think I sounded pretty good. So let's do that.
The U.S. Court of International Trade didn't know it existed. Now you do. Ordered a freeze on most of his sweeping import taxes on other countries. The court unanimously ruled that the president had overstepped his authority. But it's not over yet. The administration is appealing that court's decision.
Also, you've heard of buy now, pay later, right? Well, one of the companies behind that, Klarna, made headlines last week after revealing consumers are failing to pay back loans. So is there a personal credit crisis coming? And what does this tariff ruling mean for businesses? CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger is here to tackle it all. Let's start with the tariffs. What does this ruling mean exactly?
Well, it means that there is a pause on a lot of the tariffs that have already been paused. So we're talking about those tariffs that were announced on April 2nd, the 10% across the board, then the 145% on China, which are now 30%. But what we are not talking about are tariffs on steel, aluminum, and autos. Those remain in place. But as you said, there's going to be an appeals process. And, if I'm a business and I'm trying to make a decision, this does not give me any clarity. We have no idea where this is going next. The administration is likely to try to reinstate some of these tariffs under different rules that would pass muster under the court system. So we are in a wait and see, again, from the business perspective. As consumers, to be clear, nothing's going to change for us. Prices are heading higher for a lot of goods. They've already been tariffed. And we also know that the economy is slowing down a little bit in response to that uncertainty.
Wait, but why would nothing change for us as consumers if these tariffs are being paused even more?
Well, because those tariffs have already been brought down dramatically, and it is likely by the administration, and it is likely that the administration will find a way to reinstate a lot of them.
Okay.
So there's a statement from the White House. It says it's not for unelected judges to decide how to properly address a national emergency. In this case, the question is, what's a national emergency? Like, this is the economy that Republicans and Democrats have helped build for the last 3-4 decades.
Yeah, and specifically under this rule, the way that they've created the national emergency conversation is around the trade deficit, which, from an economist's point of view, is nonsense, because a trade deficit is not a national emergency. Perhaps if you were in a debt ceiling crisis, that could cause a national emergency. But remember, what is the trade deficit? We're buying stuff from the rest of the world. It's not a one-sided deal. We get the stuff, they get our dollars. That's not a national emergency. That's what the court said.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so let's switch gears to this buy now, pay later news. How do these plans work? And what is this announcement by Klarna, which does these types of payment plans that they made?
Okay, so buy now, pay later, it's like the old school installment loan. You pay for a quarter of whatever you're buying up front, and then you've got installments, usually 4 payments in total. So you make one now, and then if you pay those next 3 installments off, it's kind of a great deal. There's no interest, no worries, no problem. Okay, what if you don't make those payments? That's what Klarna has said. They said, there are a lot of people who are using these plans. They're not making those next 3 payments. You can be subject to interest and penalties and fees. Could be a few dollars, could go up to 25%. So I think that a lot of people like the idea of buy now, pay later, but essentially it is the same trap we often can get into with credit cards. We can spend more than we intend to, and we can actually see fees if we're not paying these off on time.
So do we think that what's happening is a lot of 20-year-olds are saying, look, here's a way to get 80% off sunglasses. You just buy them, pay this little fraction, and walk away.
I don't want to just throw shade on the 20-year-olds, because all of us have that moment. Because when you check out online, you know that it immediately says, do you want to pay for this all up front, or do you want to spread it out over time? So we're all falling for this. I think the problem is, as always, that if we look back 5 years, we went through this COVID crisis, we built up our savings, the economy reopened, we spent through all those savings, and people still want to spend. Yeah. And credit cards and buy now, pay later plans, they allow you to spend freely, but with a huge catch. You are going to get spanked if you can't pay these loans back. Okay, so Mark, you and I have not used buy now, pay later loans. I do think one of the things that everybody agrees with is that when you use buy now, pay later or a credit card, that people tend to get in the hole because they are enticed by, I'll just put this in 4 payments, or I'll just put this on my credit card. Of course, I'll pay it off in the month. And they don't realize that they won't be able to do it. So when you have a credit card or buy now, pay later, you might end up paying big interest. But why would someone use a debit card? The debit card is all about, I just want to know that the money's coming out of my account, and money does come immediately out of your account. It allows you to avoid some of those merchant fees that get charged from credit cards. But there's a lower level of fraud protection when you use a debit card, and it has nothing to do with building credit. Now, a credit card or buy now, pay later, which is an installment loan, both of those allow you to help build your credit. And, maybe with a credit card, you have valuable rewards. But, Mark, the average interest rate on anyone carrying a balance of a credit card is about 22%. So let's presume you have either buy now, pay later, or you have credit card debt. What is the best way that people should think about paying off that debt?
I mean, look, I have a very old school mentality when it comes to this stuff. So first of all, if you can't afford it, you shouldn't be buying it. And if you got to do buy now, pay later, that probably means that you can't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
So you shouldn't be buying it. But I understand that's not really how the world works. That's how my world works.
Yes.
I am in the minority.
Yes.
But I mean, if you got all this debt, you got to get on top of it because it's going to snowball downhill in a hurry, like 22%. Come on. That's like borderline loan sharking.
Yeah. And if you have high interest credit card debt, there are these 0% balance transfers. But I worry about these because I think people will do this. But it's usually, first of all, I think it's only if you have a good credit score, by the way. So let's say you have $12,000 and you say, okay, I'm going to do a 0% balance transfer. And now I'm going to be able to transfer that. I'll pay 0% for a year. You better be able to pay off that debt over the course of the year. Because if you can't, what often will happen is you end up with a much higher interest rate at the end of the term. So let's say you're like, I'm paying 20% right now. You do a 0% transfer, you don't pay it off. And then all of a sudden you're freaking at 29%. So a 0% balance transfer usually sounds like a great idea. But again, you know what? It can bite you in the tush. You know what works? Remember we had this credit card expert. He said, you know what? Sometimes it works to call and just ask for a lower APR. It's amazing. Sometimes calling works. Also, bang it out, but automate those payments. Never incur a late fee again. Just establish an automatic transfer to that card company. Do as much as you can bear to do, and you will pay it off. Now, Mark, if I've got a credit card, an auto loan, a student loan, how do I prioritize?
Well, I mean, I would always go after the one with the highest interest rate first.
Some people have this idea, like there are a lot of personal finance people who are like, oh no, pay it off just to get something paid off. Like, I don't go for that either. I'm high interest. I'm a math girl. I have a 22% interest loan and it's $16,000, and I have a 4% loan and it's $1,000. I don't get any joy out of paying off that $1,000 loan. Attack the highest interest rate first. Just do that. Okay. I want to have a conversation about bankruptcy because there are some people who should be actually looking at bankruptcy. It does not mean, I don't call it a get out of jail free card. Voluntary bankruptcy, it's a legal process. It is established under federal law. And this will allow people, maybe it's you, if you cannot pay your debts, you can't get rid of them. This process will eliminate or discharge that obligation to pay most, not all, but most kinds of consumer and business debts. It is essentially the fresh start. It is a U.S. law. And before you judge yourself or anyone else for doing this, the most common reason that Americans file for bankruptcy, job loss, medical debt, divorce. That doesn't sound like you went out and bought a fancy car and then went into debt. It just doesn't. Mark, did you know that personal bankruptcy does not erase child support, alimony, student loans, taxes owed, federal and state, and here's my favorite, parking violations. You got to pay that up. Bankruptcies usually stay on your credit report for up to 10 years, usually around 7. It can certainly impair your ability to get credit, insurance, sometimes even rent an apartment. It stinks. It's the last resort, but I don't think enough people actually understand that it is there for you. You don't have to necessarily struggle. Assets in a retirement account, if you're under the age of 59 and a half, are not considered assets that can be used for your bankruptcy. So you can preserve that. Maybe you should think about it. I don't know. I'm open to the idea. I've seen how companies use bankruptcy, and human beings, we as individuals, sometimes you run into a bad stretch. Maybe it's important for you to consider this as an option.
I think it's just the shame factor, the embarrassment factor. Nobody wants to say, "Oh, I've just gone through a bankruptcy."
I know,
but that part of the law is there for a reason. It's there to help you.
Exactly right. So, if you're teetering on the edge and you need some help, get in touch with us. Go to JillOnMoney.com, click the contact us button. And if you want to yell at us for even suggesting bankruptcy, I'm happy to hear it. But come on, we can talk. But there's been in my life, I've known people who've declared bankruptcy and they've come through the other side of it. And it's been fine. They've done a really good job of managing their financial lives after going through that experience. So I don't think you're a bad person. I don't think we should judge people, and people get into trouble for all sorts of reasons. Get in touch with us if you need some help. Go to JillOnMoney.com, click the contact us button, write us a note. And if you'd like to join us on the air live, just tick that box and Mark will do everything else. You can subscribe to us on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. We actually drop these episodes here Saturdays and Sundays. We hope that you could leave us a rating and review. My co-host, executive producer, king of all things web, and dear pal, Mark Talercio, he is the best. We ask that you do something nice for someone else today. Change your work, change your wealth, change your life. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you tomorrow.